Just to begin, to any of the LGBTQ, particularly queer, trans, young people who may be under the sound of my voice or who may watch this later, I need you to know that you are worthy. I need you to know that the fears that have been expressed here, they do not define who you are. And I also need you to know that there are people across the state who will continue to fight for you, regardless of what happens within the school district and this policy. I am aiming my remarks at the adults in the room today because that's who should be making this determination, okay? Now I'm gonna redirect to the adults. All right, good evening. My name is Courtney Thomas. My pronouns are she and they, and I am here representing the American Civil Liberties Union of South Carolina. Yes, that ACLU. It is the opinion of the ACLU of South Carolina that this proposed policy would violate Title IX and should not be enacted. We are aligned in our shared mission of wanting what is best for every child in Rock Hill schools. I encourage you, the adults, to act in the best interest of every child in your care. You are trustees. In your role, by definition, you are entrusted to make a judgment on how this body's time and money are spent. As you consider this policy, please ask yourselves, is this how I want to spend this district's time? Is this how I want to spend this district's money? I hope to help you answer these questions through my comments today, and I do welcome your questions. Discriminatory bathroom policies like the one proposed here today are in direct violation of Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination. A recent update to the rule in April of this year clarified even further that Title IX prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. That means if this policy should go into effect, the Rock Hill School District would be subject to lawsuits and intervention from the federal government. Is that how you want to spend your time and money? I'll get even more specific. We saw a policy like this play out in Virginia. Gavin Grimm, a transgender boy, sued his school for discrimination under Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. I'll skip to the end because what you need to know is that the Fourth Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals, our very same circuit, ruled in Gavin's favor. In fact, the Supreme Court even weighed in when they declined to hear the case and affirmed the Fourth Circuit's decision. Instead of following the law, that school district in Virginia cost Virginia taxpayers $1.3 million and 6 years of legal battles. And since this body is in budget season, I know that's a fun time for y'all, I do want to remind folks here exactly what's at stake. A violation of Title IX does endanger the federal funding that the school district does depend on. Just in 2022, this school district received $35.6 million from the federal government. That amounts to about just over $2,000 per student, okay? As educators, you should be in the business of truth. And I think it's in our best interest to speak clearly and plainly. This rule was proposed to fight a culture war. I guarantee you that's not why most of you joined this body. Are you willing to fight a culture war at the expense of not just your time and money, but of the very children you are charged to protect? I don't take the fears of children lightly. I don't. But I do know that the solution to fear is education. When cisgender girls say they feel unsafe in a bathroom with transgender girls, our role as the adults in the room is to educate them, inform them, and prepare them for the real world, not to enable their fears by playing into stereotypes or the political agendas of adults. Transgender people are not predators. They're going into the bathroom to use the bathroom. We are adults, again, and this is an opportunity for education, not discrimination. These fears exist because of messaging young people are exposed to that says they should be afraid. But again, our job is to educate. Here's a fact, and a sad one. The sad fact is that transgender children are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of violence. That was unfortunately demonstrated just this last week in Minnesota when a transgender student was attacked by cisgender boys as she exited the boys' bathroom. This resulted in a broken jaw, lost teeth, and a compound fracture which led to reconstructive surgery. After the incident, the student said, "I try to use any gender-neutral or family restroom options if they're available. But when I'm not given that option, or when it's tough between my classes, I use the men's restroom because it's what makes everyone around me the least amount of uncomfortable. And making other people uncomfortable is something that I try not to do. It's my worst fear." In that statement, the student told the world that she put her own fears second to those around her. That's not something we ask of any other student. As a product of South Carolina public schools, I can tell you what I was actually afraid of in high school. I was worried about class sizes that didn't allow me to get the time and attention of my already overworked educators. I worried about the very real threat of an active shooter. I worried about my peers who were saddled with lunch debt and couldn't eat the same meals I had. I wasn't worried about what happened in the bathroom stall next to me. In fact, I would be embarrassed to be thinking about the person in the stall next to me. If you decide to pass this blatantly discriminatory policy, I'd like to show you your future. The millions of dollars that you'd spend defending this policy, it's just the beginning. This discrimination would impact every single student, teacher, and administrator in this district. Who would enforce this policy? How would they enforce it? I can't imagine teachers would be interested in potty policing when they're already underpaid and overworked. Maybe administrators then. Which vice principal at each school would be assigned to cross-reference birth certificates and bathroom passes? The policy lends itself to absurdity because at its core, it is discriminatory and unenforceable. Your decision about this policy should be guided by the law and not fear. I know a lot of what you heard today, it's heavy, and I don't take that fear lightly. But as decision makers for every student in this school district, you should follow the law. And I know it sounds, it's tough, you know, but I don't want you to be swayed by the voices of a few into not following what the law of the United States says, okay? I encourage you to reject this policy, and again, I welcome your questions. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir.
Are you a lawyer?
I am not a lawyer, but I know you are, sir.
So you're telling us what the law is?
I am a person who can read Title IX, and Title IX does.
I just want to be clear and go on the record. Are you telling us what the law is?
I'm telling you that Title IX applies to the Rock Hill School District. Yes, I'm telling you that.
But that's it. You're not telling us what the law is.
It is your job to interpret the law. However, the guidance from the federal government explicitly says how that law should be interpreted. And that is, you know, the role of the federal government, yes.
It just sounded like you were telling us what the law is. Thank you.
So, I'd like to Reel it in, sir. Like, what are you trying to get at? Because Title IX does protect transgender girls and cisgender girls.
Lawyer, because you were telling us what the law was, and I just wanted.
I don't need a law degree.
Okay, well
Yeah.
So you're not a lawyer.
No, sir, I'm not a lawyer.
Are you telling us what the law is?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Just curious. Last year we lost 3 students due to a transgender child because of miscommunication, and some girls didn't understand there was mental health issues for the other kids. All 3 of those kids packed up and left. That's about $54,000. That's one teacher. What would you recommend us do to keep these kids in these schools and keep them safe?
I'm sorry, what was the...
Last year, we lost 3 kids out of Salute Trail Middle School due to a transgender child because one child did not know the kid was transgender and thought it was a girl. And so, therefore, mental health wise, for the kid that was confused, they did not know that it was a girl. It was actually a boy. So, how do we stop this? Because I lost 3 kids. That's $54,000 of funding from the federal government, the state, and the local government. So, it's about $18,000 per kid here. So I lost $54,000, which is the approximate what we paid a beginning teacher, close to it. And so how would you recommend us fix this problem?
I would encourage you to refer to transgender people by their pronouns and not it. So we'll start there. I do also think it is important to educate these students about their fears. So I'm not saying that fear is irrelevant. However, the decision of a parent to take a student out of a school is not based on the existence of another child.
You want to talk to those parents and have
I'm more than happy to speak to this family.
So, anything further?
That's it for me, unless there are other questions from the board.
Well, Lindsay, we say thank you. Thank you for your time.